Breaking news, Birds Nation. The storm is brewing in Philly, and the thunder's coming from deep inside the Eagles' nest. Whispers have turned into roars, and I'm here to deliver the inside scoop that's lighting up the NovaCare complex like a playoff game under the lights. The Philadelphia Eagles aren't just aiming for the Super Bowl, they're charging at it like it's fourth and goal with the season on the line. And head coach Nick Sirianni? He's in full war mode, strategizing, stacking depth, and taking bold risks to build a roster that bleeds green. I've got the latest intel, straight from the front lines. But before we fly into the fire, smash that like button if you ride or die with the Birds. And if you've been bleeding green since the vet days, drop a comment. Go Eagles! My heart bleeds green and white. Let's go! So let's jump straight into the fire. JV and Clowney. Yes, that JV and Clowney, who most of us in Philly remember too well for knocking Carson Wentz out of the playoffs with that infamous helmet-to-helmet hit back in the 2019 season. But now, with his release from the Carolina Panthers, Clowney is a free agent, and his name is surfacing around the Eagles as a potential depth piece for the defensive line. Should the Eagles take that chance? Let's rewind the tape on Clowney's career. First overall pick back in 2014 by the Houston Texans. He entered the league with generational expectations after making national headlines during his time at South Carolina with that monster hit on Michigan. He had 13 sacks in that college season, and fans and analysts alike predicted he'd be a perennial All-Pro. While that hasn't exactly come to fruition, Clowney has carved out a respectable NFL career, 58 sacks, 108 tackles for loss, 139 quarterback hits across 140 games. He's a three-time Pro Bowler, a second-team All-Pro in 2016, and he still believes he has gas in the tank at 32 years old. He said it himself following the Panthers' decision to release him. I think I played well for Carolina last year considering the circumstances. I ended up playing extremely well. I could play the game. I could play football. His PFF numbers back that up. A solid overall grade of 70.8. Ranking him 47th out of 211 edge rushers. His pass rush grade? A strong 73.2, top 30 in the league. Not bad for a rotational guy. He had 33 hurries and 44 total pressures. That's the type of disruption that wins games in the trenches. But here's where things get complicated. Clowney hasn't stayed with any team longer than 2 seasons since his time in Houston. It was Seattle in 2019, Tennessee in 2020, which didn't go well, Cleveland for 2 years, Baltimore in 2023, and Carolina in 2024. He's been productive at times, even putting up 9.5 sacks with the Ravens. Still, Carolina wanted him gone. And that raises the red flag. What's going on in the locker room? Is it attitude, fit, or just business? The Eagles under Nick Sirianni have built a strong locker room culture. That's no accident. Sirianni has made that a foundational piece of this team. So the question becomes, could Clowney disrupt that? Or is he just the kind of veteran rotational piece that could elevate this defensive front? Let's not forget, there's a scenario where Bryce Huff might not fit the Eagles' scheme. And if that ends up being the case, a guy like Clowney could fill that void. He's scheme versatile. He can play in both 4-3 and 3-4 sets, slide inside on pass rushing downs, and still bring pressure. And when you look at the names on this Eagles defensive line, you see potential everywhere. Nolan Smith, Jix Hunt, Josh Uche, Azeez Ojulari, Thomas Booker, Gabe Hall, Byron Young, Ty Robinson, Patrick Johnson, and others. There's youth, there's speed, but what's still lacking a bit is that grizzled veteran presence. Clowney has playoff experience. He's faced double teams. He's taken on top tackles. And he's still producing. Now, let's switch gears to the offensive side, because the Eagles are reportedly one of the top landing spots for veteran wide receiver Amari Cooper. Yes, the same Amari Cooper who made life miserable for us during his Cowboys days. He's 30 years old now, but still putting up respectable numbers. In 2023 with the Browns and a short stint in Buffalo, Cooper had a combined 50 receptions for 694 yards. Not eye-popping, but considering the quarterback carousel in Cleveland and the limited reps in Buffalo, it's still solid. Plus, just one season earlier in 2022, he put up over 1,200 receiving yards at 17.5 yards per catch. The current depth chart at wide receiver, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are obviously locked in as the top dogs. Jan Dotson is listed as WR3. And despite some criticism, I don't think he's a bad option at all. First-round pick out of Penn State, runs a 4.4, and has shown flashes when given the opportunity. But let's be honest, the depth behind him is shaky. Johnny Wilson, a 6th-round rookie. Terrace Marshall, a reclamation project who hasn't produced. Anaya Smith, unproven. That drop-off from WR2 to WR3, and especially from WR3 to WR4, is massive. Adding a guy like Cooper makes a lot of sense, especially if the Eagles are in win-now mode, and we all know they are. Howie Roseman isn't shy about pulling the trigger for veterans who can help this team win immediately. Remember Julio Jones? That experiment didn't work, but Cooper is in much better shape than Julio was when he arrived. Cooper could be the insurance policy if anything happens to Brown or Smith. He's a polished route runner, has reliable hands, and won't cost you a ton. The wide receiver market has come down this offseason, deals are affordable, and the Eagles could snag Cooper at a team-friendly number. But there's more to this than just stats. It's about trust. Do the Eagles trust Dotson to step into a larger role if needed? Do they believe Wilson, Marshall, or Smith are ready to emerge? Or are they prepared to make a savvy veteran addition and push all their chips in for a Super Bowl run? And finally, on a more personal and inspiring note, let's talk about A.J. Brown. The man has become more than just a star wide receiver. He's become a Philly guy through and through. Since coming over in 2022, he's broken franchise records, tied Terrell Owens for most 100-yard games in a season, and posted an NFL record 6 consecutive games with 125-plus receiving yards. He's already had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons with the Eagles, and he's only getting better. But beyond the numbers, it's his connection to the city that stands out. Brown said, "This city made me sharper, tougher, and more focused, not just as a player, but as a man." That's Philly. That's what we're all about. It's gritty, it's real, and it's from the heart. And when a player embraces this city the way A.J. Brown has, it makes you believe he's not just here for the contract, he's here for the legacy. So now I turn it over to you, Eagles fans. We've got 2 big questions looming. Should the Birds sign Jalen Clowney to add a veteran punch to the defensive line rotation? And would adding Amari Cooper be the insurance this receiving core needs to get through a long, physical season? Let me know in the comments. What would you do if you were Howie Roseman? Are you in or out on Clowney? Do you ride with JD or bring in AC? Let's talk about it. And if you're ready for part 2, just say the word. Let's pick up right where we left off, because this conversation around Jalen Clowney and Amari Cooper has Eagles Nation fired up, and rightfully so. The stakes are high heading into this season, and with the window to contend wide open, these decisions could be the difference between another deep playoff run or another season where we're left wondering what could have been. Let's go back to Clowney for a second. His fit in this current Eagles defensive scheme is more than just theoretical. It actually lines up well. This is a defense that'll likely operate out of a 3-4 alignment more often than not. And in that structure, Clowney can be moved around. He can put his hand in the dirt as a defensive end or stand up as an outside linebacker. He can even slide inside on 3rd down and create mismatches against slower guards. That kind of flexibility matters when you're going up against elite quarterbacks and offenses that force you to be multiple. And let's not forget, we're not talking about Clowney as a starter here. He would not be expected to carry the load or be the face of the pass rush. He'd be depth. He'd be the guy who rotates in when the starters need a breather, or when you need a different look to throw at a guy like Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy. And if we're being honest, he's more talented than a good chunk of the current second stringers. Oshin Mathis, KJ Henry, Patrick Johnson, guys with upside, sure, but not one of them has Clowney's resume or proven ability